All right. Today, our instructor is Mr. Ryan Black. Kind of keeping it in with our superhero theme today. Ryan has had less than 12 hours notice to fill in for us today. He's kind of pitch hitting, but here he is, a picture of him flying through the air with a bad guy on his back. Just kidding. He's a good guy too. But Ryan is so awesome. And he's awesome in a lot of ways because of his wife, Laura. Every good man has a wonderful woman backing him up, and this is a dynamic duo. And I'm so grateful that Ryan's here with us today. He always has good information for us. Ryan, thank you for showing up today. How are you?
Thanks, Ron. I'm doing great. Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Well, I've got the host responsibilities over to you, and I'm excited to hear what you've got for us, sir.
Okie doke. Thank you. And I apologize if my voice is raspy. I've been fighting a bit of a cold, but I'm excited to be here. And hopefully you all can hear me clearly. And I'm excited to share this information with you. So let me just cue up my screen, and then you guys can see what I see. Okay. All right. Now this is a topic that it's been a long time, but I actually trained on it before. But it's so important that even if you have heard it before, you need to hear it again. And most people on the call probably have not heard it before. And that is the topic of finding raw prospects. Okay. So raw prospects, this is key to what we do in our marketing business. You gotta make sure, as it says here, you gotta make sure that you're barking up the right tree. Because if we're not looking for raw prospects, we are not going to have success in the marketing business. It's that simple. Okay. So some people, and I know this from my own experience, right? Sometimes we can start to feel kind of frustrated in our marketing businesses because, like, well, I'm bringing guests, I'm getting them down to the meetings, I'm inviting them, but once they get down, they're not buying. So why aren't they buying? Well, it could be for several reasons. One of the most common reasons is maybe it's your closing technique, and that's that's a topic for another day, but if your closing technique is not effective, it's not, you're not straight lining it. You're not keeping it focused on the student and on the benefits and on the urgency of why they need to get involved. Your closing technique could use some honing, and there are some phenomenal audiobooks available in the library that cover closing techniques. And so, if you haven't listened to those, I invite you to do that. The closing is extremely important. Maybe it's your engagement technique. Maybe it's the way in which that you're interacting with them, and you're not creating intrigue. You're not adding value. You're not keeping them engaged to the next value add. For example, this Saturday we've got a phenomenal value add and engagement activity event available for not just students but for guests as well. The workshop here in Utah and around the country, there's different events this week as well that are all phenomenal for engaging with our guests. So it could be that. But what I'm going to focus on today is guests who aren't buying because they aren't raw. And it's that simple. Okay? Who aren't raw. So what does it mean to be a raw prospect? It's an acronym, RAW. R is ready, meaning now is the right time for them to begin. A is able, meaning that the prospect has access to money or can get access to money to purchase. And willing, or W, is willing, meaning that the individual has a desire to learn real estate and a desire to move forward. And so we could invite whoever we want down, and a lot of folks will come down to the events. But if they're not ready, they're not able and willing, they are not going to purchase right now. You can't make it much simpler than that. And so, that's one of the key things that's really important is is we run a volume business, right? It's an event-based volume business. We need to get people through events, and then the people who are ready, able, and willing are those who'll say, this is awesome, I want to engage, I want to do it. And so if we're frustrated because, man, I keep inviting people and they just don't get it. They're not, you know, they're not wanting to come on board and join our group. You need to reflect and really look at each individual prospect and say, are the people that I'm inviting, are they raw? Because if they're not going to engage. They simply aren't. Ready, able, and willing. Okay. And this is also something that will help you to prioritize where you spend your time. Because if you only have like 5 or 10 prospects, like, I mean, that's easy. It's only a couple minutes per day to have to, that you need to dedicate to be able to connect with them, quick phone call or a text or whatever, and connect with them and invite them to the following event and see how they're doing and add value and all that. It's pretty quick, pretty straightforward. But, once you have 50, 100, 150 prospects, because you're generating a bunch of leads, plus you're helping your team get qualified, all of a sudden you're not going to have the time every day to connect with everyone. And so you have to prioritize who is going to be at the top of your list. And those who are more raw will be higher priority than those who are less raw. So what to do if, okay, I've identified my prospect is not ready, not able, not willing. So now what? Just give up? No, do not give up. Okay. There are other options. The primary thing is we drip them onto the back burner, right? And that's just a marketing term to convert them to drip or put them on a drip campaign. And so, what does that mean when you drip someone? Simply means that a prospect, someone or a potential buyer that you're working with, rather than having a constant, be it daily or regular engagement with that person, you put them onto a back burner drip. And so you do continue to engage with them, but it's something that maybe you're only inviting them out to special events, the big events like the workshop this week or the next intensive. Maybe it's something where you just want to invite them to a special event that you're hosting if they're warm market at your house or something like that. So you don't completely disengage, but but it's somebody who, perfect case in point, last night I received a text from one of our prospects that we're working with at it was about nearly 10 o'clock last night. It was a long text, but he said in the text, hey, I appreciate all the time that that you've dedicated to working with us. And this is somebody who has come to 3 or 4 different events. And he said, I appreciate the time, but now is just not the right time for us. We're focused on other things. And anyways, they're not wrong. They've seen the value. We've gone through it emotionally. We've gone through it logically. They understand exactly what it is and the value that's there, but the timing right now is not right. They're just not ready. They are able, they have the money, and they're just not ready. And right now they're not willing because they're focused on some other things. And so, so my response this morning will be, great. Appreciate, sad to see you go, and appreciate the opportunity to work with you for a little bit. And when the time is right, we look forward to getting you involved with our group, and it'll be a very positive response. But the key is we're going to continue to drip that prospect and invite them to those key events. It's not like, okay, well, tough luck, because a lot of people, people that have been in the business for longer know that some folks take a while to get involved. And so you want to continue to add value and offer them to come to different events and things, especially special events, so that they can plug in. And who knows, at that point, maybe the time will be right. So Speaking on that, being ready, sometimes now is not the right time, but it will be soon. And when do we know, or how are we going to know when that time is? We can't. There's no way to know. We don't have a crystal ball. And so it's just all we can do is continue to engage. Situations change, but we do have to have patience. And as I mentioned before, the best thing that we can do is just to continue to invite them, continue inviting them, particularly just to special events. If somebody has expressed that they're communicated, I really am not interested in coming down to your weekly meetings anymore. Typically I'll say, okay, well, is it okay if I still invite you? We have periodically as, really big special events, every other month or so, big workshops and things like that. Do you mind? I'd really like to invite you, throw you an invitation when those events come up. Is that okay with you? And they'll 9 times out of 10 will say, oh yeah, sure, not a problem. Because, we want to make sure to maintain that positive relationship with them and not put them in a position where they feel like we are just, brute forcing them, buy. No, that's not it at all. We're adding value. We're trying to add value. And those events are so special and so powerful that we gotta say, hey man, I'd really like to shoot you over the invite when we have these events, because you're not going to want to miss out on it. Whether or not you engage in our group, this is something that you really need to be at. And so that's important. Able, it doesn't matter how bad they want it. If they don't have the money, they can't get started. And that's obvious, but it's a frustration that a lot of us have faced with our guests, where we're trying to get them involved and they simply don't have the money and they can't get it. Sometimes even, they look for months. We have a case in point. We have an individual who just signed up, who just got their education access a couple days ago. It was actually last week, last Friday. He has been trying to get involved for nearly a year. Okay. Nearly a year. This individual's situation was pretty unique, but where there's a will, there's a way. And this gentleman, finally after a year, has been able to get involved. And I mean, we worked with him very heavily for about 4 months in the beginning, and it just wasn't going to happen. And so he finally said, you know what, I guess this is just not something that I'm going to be able to do. And, I really appreciate it. And we, that was that. And so then there was about another 6 months where there was radio silence. We periodically would, hey, we've got this event, that event. We didn't really engage, but now the time was right. And he called us. He said, guys, I'm ready. This has changed. This has changed. This has changed. I'm now able to do this. I'm so excited. When can we meet? I want to sign up now. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, we have time right now to meet. And so he is just so enthusiastic, so excited to be involved. His wife is on board now, and it's just some things have changed in their lives. So, it's something that you just, where there's a will, there's a way, and the timing does have to be right. Another thing to consider when being able is, most of us we're focused on the Extreme Plus combo because that gives the most value for the customer. That gives them access to everything, lifetime access, and all the benefits, and the one-on-one coaching, and all that, versus coming in at a lower package. But there are those other packages for a reason, and so maybe we have to get creative with the funding options, or maybe we have to bring in that student and say, you know what, just baby step it, get started with your essentials for now or whatever, and then we'll figure out something else in the future to get you upgraded. But you need to consider that, to be able to offer that to people, and sometimes people don't want it. They're just like, no, I only want the combo. I don't want anything else. Even though we try to convince them, look, it's better to just get in. The important thing is that you get started with us. The important thing is you get going, and that you're able to just get get started, get building those relationships, get learning and all that. Because if you're not doing that, you're not gonna, I mean, you're gonna be stuck. And we want you to engage and get going. And lastly, willing. They have to be willing to progress. When people are, and we all know this, when you're comfortable, the greatest enemy, as Ron Williams says, the greatest enemy of great is good. If you're good, if you're doing good, if you're good, you're never going to get great, right? Because we're comfortable. If you're comfortable, if you're fine, you're not going to stretch yourself and push yourself and go through that pain that's required to get to the next level of great. Most people won't. And so, we got to keep that in mind. We don't want to just focus on people that are completely in horrible situations and desperate and have no idea what to do, because many times those people are not. I mean, they may be very willing, but they're just not able to engage with us. But just focusing on those who are willing needs to be a key element. Sometimes the willingness in somebody's situation comes after something negative happens, right? Life changes, job loss, sickness, whatever. And sometimes, unfortunately, when we reach out to somebody and all is fine and dandy and they're like, nah, I don't need this. Everything's good. I got my W-2. Thank you. But then we get a call from them a couple months later. Okay, I just lost my job. Now I really want to do this. How can I get in? And well, now you can't get any credit because you don't have an income. And, and people are then they become willing, and then now they're no longer able because their situation changed. So it's important to focus on that. And that's one thing that we bring up to people when and explain to them, say, hey, look, right now things are going well, but it can change on a dime. And we tell them, we've had folks who've been in similar situations as you before, and then something changes, they get laid off or whatever. And then, they call us back and they're like, hey, we want to get involved, and they can't get access to money because they have no income. So why not get involved now when you do have access? And that just makes things so much easier for you in the future. So our focus here really is this, right? Find qualified prospects, raw prospects, ready, able, and willing. Okay, that's that simple. Finding the raw prospects. Now, you may be like, yeah, but I don't have a lot of raw prospects, Ryan. It's not that easy to find them. It's all good. Even if your prospect isn't raw, don't give up. Like I said before, some of them take a long time. Just maintain casual contact, put them on a drip, right? Put them on a drip system, continue adding value. And as you continue to add value, you'll continue to build that relationship. And over time, always, people's situations change. Who knows? It could be days, weeks, months, or years, but people's situations always change. And so you just got to keep that in mind. And this patience is required. Not everyone takes the same amount of time to get started. Some people jump in the first day, and some people, it takes them a year. But it's all good. Focus is, as long as you're keeping, as I mentioned before, this is a volume business. So as long as you're keeping the right number of, as long as you're keeping your pipeline full of prospects, you're going to be fine. Because it doesn't matter if they take long, if they take longer to get involved, as long as you're continually refreshing that, you'll have enough people in your pipeline to build a solid business and a stable business. And that's, that applies to real estate as well. You got to keep your pipeline full. If you're just like looking at one property and it's like, hey, I found one property, I'm going to put an offer on it and I hope it works, you're not going to be successful. You've got to have a full pipeline of leads, of marketing leads as well as real estate leads. And more than anything, keep at it, because the most important thing in this business, in both sides of the business, is consistency. Consistency. If you don't keep at it and don't continue to do it, you're not going to have success. Now, another quick thing I want to touch on is as far as once you've got those prospects, how are you tracking that? How are you tracking those people and their progress? Because once again, if you've got 5 people that you're working with, I mean, that's easy you can write that down on one hand. It's easy to keep track of the information, but what happens once you've got dozens or hundreds of prospects that you're trying to work with? It's really hard to keep track of everything. And there's different systems and things available for tracking that. You can use some people use spreadsheets, or people use CRMs, and or just notebooks to write down all the information, or their phone. There's a lot of different ways to track it. One option is, and this is a really cheesy looking photo, but it was the first photo I found. But one thing that we have started doing is using a leaderboard, or a prospect board, something that large sales organizations typically use, where you can track each person, or in our case, each IMA on our team that's trying to get 5-star qualified, who is actively bringing guests. And so we've got our IMA, and then we've got their guest names, and then different codings that reflect different status of what those folks are doing. And so, have they been to different events, and where are they in the funnel as far as different exposures, as far as having their order in, finding funds, etc. And so we're able to track, whose guests are whose, and then also the status of each of those guests, of what we've done with them, and if we've contacted them today. Because sometimes when you get into calling mode and you're just burning through calls, you start to think, wait, now did I call this person today, or was that yesterday? You start to, the days kind of start blurring together. And so, this is one option. And you can buy pre-made systems out there, but something we created ourselves with getting some magnets and some magnetic whiteboards. And so just a suggestion. There's lots of different ways, but there's something about when you're in your home office, or wherever it is that you do your calls, you can stand in front of a big board and just see everyone's names, and see them, look at them, move the names, progress as they progress through the funnel. That's just that physical, I don't know, interaction. I think there's something powerful about that. So that's just another little suggestion for those of you who are trying to figure out, how do I keep track of my folks? Okay, that's great. And you can also track on there, are they raw or not, right? You can determine, are they ready? Are they able? Are they willing? And just like here, they have different color codings. We have different color codings as well that indicate whether or not the prospects are raw, so we can know who to prioritize when we're making the calls each day. Ideally, we'd like to contact everyone, but that's simply not possible. There's not enough time in it. And so we have 2 people. My wife and I both are making calls. So we try to burn through those calls and hammer through them as quickly as possible, but having a prioritized visual list that we can look at really helps and makes a big, big difference. And in closing, once again, just want to touch on, perseverance. Don't give up. The people that really have success in this business are the people that don't give up. The people that come in and are like, "Oh, this is great. This is awesome. I'm going to work really hard." And then 2 months later, you never see them again. Obviously, those people don't have success. In order to have success, you got to have perseverance. That doesn't just apply to Renatus. It applies to any business, right? The majority of small businesses fail when they start. Why? Well, for several factors, but one of them is that people just give up. And so, do you want to be the majority of people that fail, or do you want to be the minority of those people who do have success because you have that attitude of, I am not going to stop until I'm successful. Like, there is no other alternative. And you don't want to be in a position where you've got all your eggs in one basket. And it's like, well, if I don't make money on this week, I'm not gonna eat that, because that's not good, because that puts yourself in a position of scarcity. But what you do want is to have that determination and that perseverance that there is no other option, that I am not going to stop until I'm successful, because the system works, the program works, the product is phenomenal. And it does work. But if you're not having success, or you're not having the success that you want to have, the level of success, you need to look at yourself and say, okay, how can I improve my closing technique? How can I improve my engagement techniques? And am I focusing on prospects who are raw? And, after you've addressed all those things,
Ready,
it's a
able, and
time game,
willing.
perseverance. As with any sales, you can't just instantly fill your pipeline and then instantly close those sales. You have to go through the sales funnel. It's a sales process for a reason, and it does take time, but you reap what you sow. You plant those seeds, and then in time, it could be, a few days, a few weeks, or months. Those seeds will start to flourish, and then you'll start to see the results, and you'll start to reap the benefit from what you've done. So patience, perseverance, don't give up. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today on this morning training call, and appreciate your time. Hope you guys have a phenomenal week, and look forward to chatting with you on the next one. Thanks a lot, guys.